take revenge. I will come back, and I will fight you. This is not the end.
The night Stella ran out of that house was darker than any night she had ever seen. No moon, no stars, only silence. She wrapped her babies tighter against her chest and walked fast, barefoot, on the cold road. Her body was still in pain. Her back burned, but fear pushed her forward. Every sound made her heart jump. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew one thing. She could not go back to her abusive husband, George. Back in the room, George, Stella's husband, had already woken up. He looked around. The room was empty. No babies. No Stella. Then he saw the letter Stella had dropped on the floor. "Wait for me, George. I will be back. I promise you." George laughed. "Stella," he muttered coldly, "I'm going to get you back here. You can never run away from me." He picked up his flashlight and stepped out into the night, moving in the same direction Stella had gone ahead. Stella kept running, her chest tight with fear. Suddenly, the babies began to cry, as if they had sensed danger from afar. "Please, please don't cry," Stella whispered, her steps quickening. Then, a group of street boys appeared from nowhere. They were drunk, laughing loudly. Stella was startled. She ran toward an old bus stop by the roadside and hid there. One of them saw Stella. "Hey, who is this woman?" he shouted. Another one moved closer and looked at the babies. "She has twin babies," he said. They all looked at Stella. "How about you give us those babies and we leave you?" one of them added, laughing. Stella's heart dropped. She turned and ran, but her legs were weak. One of the boys grabbed Stella's hand. She struggled with them, fighting desperately to save her babies, but they were stronger. The babies cried louder. "Leave me alone!" Stella screamed. Just when she cried, thinking she had lost her babies to the boys, a car's headlights suddenly flashed from afar. The boys stepped back. The sound of an approaching car made them panic. One by one, they released Stella and ran away into the darkness. Stella collapsed to the ground, holding her babies tightly against her chest. The car came closer and stopped right in front of her. The door opened. It was an elderly man. He had seen Stella struggling with the boys from afar and decided to stop. He looked at the babies, then at Stella's trembling body. "Young woman," he said gently, "where are you going with these babies? It's dangerous out here." Stella was shaking uncontrollably. "Please, sir," she said, her voice barely audible. "I just want to go far away from this place. I will explain later." Deep down, Stella could feel that George was already looking for her. The man studied her face closely. He saw fear, pain, and desperation written all over it. Without asking further questions, he nodded. "Get in," he said softly. "You're not safe here." Immediately the car left. At that same moment, George reached the spot. He looked around and saw nothing, only a white car fading in the distance. He had already come a long way and could not continue. Muttering angrily, he said, "I will still find you, Stella, and when I do, I will bury you alive." Then he turned back and went home. Stella and the man who saved her continued their journey. It was a long drive out of the city where Stella had lived with her husband. Inside the car, Stella held her babies tightly, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. When they finally arrived, the car stopped in front of a small house.
The house was simple but clean. A small sitting room, a narrow hallway, and a soft light that made the place feel warm. It wasn't big, but it was neat and well organized. The compound was quiet, the kind of place where trouble rarely came knocking. The man stepped out first and opened the door for her. "Don't be afraid," he said gently, noticing how tense she still was. "You're safe here." Stella stepped down slowly, her legs weak. "My name is Abraham," the man said as he set his bag aside. "This is my home." Stella nodded. "Thank you, sir. My name is Stella," she whispered. Abraham nodded. "Okay," he said, then pointed to a small room. "You and the babies can stay there. It's quiet." She entered the room and sat on the bed, exhaustion washing over her all at once. Abraham returned with food and water. "Eat," he said kindly. "You need strength." Stella ate slowly, her hands shaking, while the babies slept peacefully beside her.
He watched her for a moment, then looked away. He had many questions, too many, but he could see it clearly. Stella had been through enough for one night. "We'll talk tomorrow," he said softly. "For now, rest." He stood up and added, "If you need anything, I'm just in the next room." When the door closed behind him, Stella lay back and stared at the ceiling, for the first time in a long while. There were no shouts, no threats, no fear, just silence. But Stella knew this was not the end of her pain. It was the beginning of a harder journey. Morning came early. Abraham had already prepared breakfast. He gently called Stella from the room, and they sat down to eat. For a moment, there was silence. Then he spoke. "Stella, why were you outside so late with your babies?" Stella took a deep breath. "My husband," she said quietly. "He beats me every day. I ran for my life." Abraham listened, his face serious. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "You can stay here until you're ready to leave. No one will drive you away." Stella couldn't hold it in anymore. She knelt down, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, sir," she whispered again and again. Weeks ran by, and George continued living his life as if nothing had happened. He went to work. He ate whatever he wanted. He slept peacefully. Slowly, people began to notice Stella's absence. Neighbors asked questions. Friends became curious. Even family members whispered. "Where is your wife?" they asked. "Where are the twins?" Each time, George smiled and lied. "I took my wife and my twins abroad," he would say proudly. "They're enjoying life. This son here is too harsh for them." People praised him. "What a good husband. You really love your family. You're trying." But in reality, Stella was suffering, trying to make a living for herself and her children. Only a few weeks earlier, she had started looking for a job to assist Abraham with money. He had been the only one providing, and it weighed heavily on her heart. That morning, after Abraham left for work, Stella dressed up and stepped out to search for a job. Office after office rejected her. Each place asked the same question. "Madam, your results are good, but how many years of work experience do you have?" Stella had none. George, her husband, had stopped her from working during their early years of marriage, so she answered honestly. "None." They all rejected her. She returned home broken, realizing she had made her worst mistake by listening to her husband. "Oh God," she cried, her voice shaking. "How did I allow this man to destroy my future?" She wept bitterly, a first-class graduate reduced to despair. Knowing her only option now was to put her certificate aside and look for a minor job. She headed out again and was able to get one. But it was hard work, mixing cement, carrying blocks at a construction site. Every morning, she left her babies with Abraham, who had now become more like a father to her. Then she went to the site, carrying blocks to the top of unfinished buildings and mixing cement under the hot sun. It wasn't easy on her, but she had no choice. She had to face her reality and make a living. Meanwhile, far away in another town, George partied without a care. He moved from club to club, surrounded by girls, spraying money, drinking endlessly, and enjoying life to the fullest. Stella continued working every day. She pushed herself harder under the scorching sun, and every evening, she returned to her babies exhausted, aching, but determined. She had been doing the job for 10 months, and it was already affecting her body. And just when she thought all hope was gone, that was when everything began to change. The engineer in charge of the building came to the site that day. She was a young lady. Her name was Peace. She walked around, monitoring the work, when she noticed a woman carrying a block on her head. Her eyes widened. She had never seen anything like it before. She called out to the workers. "Who allowed this woman to work here? This is not healthy for her." Then she walked up to Stella and greeted her. "Young woman, we don't allow female workers on this site. Please look for another job." Stella fell to her knees. "Ma, please," she cried. "I don't know any other work to do." But the female engineer didn't listen. "Madam, I can't allow you to do this work on my site. Maybe you can check another place," Peace said, turning to leave. Then Stella spoke, just one sentence. "I have twin babies waiting for me to return with food," she said. "I can't afford to go home empty today." Peace stopped and turned back. "Madam, what about your husband?" she asked. Stella told her everything, the abuse, the beatings, and how she was forced to run away with her children. Those words opened an old wound in Peace. She too had once been abused. She too had once been lost, until someone helped her. And she had promised herself that one day she would return the favor. As Stella finished her story, Peace knew that day had come. She brought out the money she had on her and handed it to Stella. "Take this," she said gently. "Your job for today has ended. Go and rest while I look for a safe and well-paying job for you." Stella thanked her repeatedly. She could hardly believe what she was hearing, but deep down she knew it was God. They exchanged contacts as Stella picked up her bag. "I will call you when the work is ready," the engineer said. Stella nodded and went home with a sigh of relief. Stella got home that evening happy. The moment Abraham saw her, he knew something had changed. Stella hugged him tightly, then knelt beside her twins, kissing their faces again and again. "We will be fine," she whispered, tears in her eyes. Abraham said nothing. He only nodded, grateful that she had returned safely. It didn't take up to 2 days when Peace called Stella. "I've gotten you a job," she said. Stella's heart nearly jumped out of her chest. She arranged her files carefully and went to the address Peace sent her. That day, Stella was taken in. Peace didn't just secure her a job, she secured a good one. Stella was employed as an administrative officer, handling records and documentation. The pay was good. The environment was safe. Gradually, Stella's life began to change for good. She moved into a bigger apartment with her twins. And the man she had come to see as a father, Abraham, they lived peacefully. Stella kept going to work, kept working and caring for her family, but deep inside she knew something was missing. A promise remained unfulfilled. She needed to go back to the man who once made her life a nightmare. One evening, Stella sat alone in her office, staring into space. Her thoughts drifted back to George. He was stronger than her. He always had been. She wanted to forget and forgive, but the memories returned. The sound of the belt hitting her skin, the sharp sting of his slaps, her own voice crying and begging for mercy. Her hands clenched. She would not forget. She would not forgive. That was when a thought suddenly flashed through her mind. Military training. If she wanted to face the man who almost destroyed her, she needed to become stronger physically and mentally. That same evening after work, Stella went home and began searching online and on social media. That was how she found him, the man who would train her. His name was Tiger, a retired army man. When she met him, she saw it immediately. He was tall and heavily built, with broad shoulders, hardened muscles, and scars that spoke of battles survived. Stella told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he looked at her calmly and said, "I won't go easy on you, but I won't let you fail." Training began. Every evening after work, Stella went straight to training. Her body ached. Her muscles burned. Her strength was pushed to its limits. Many times, she felt like giving up, but she never did. At every stage of the training, she whispered under her breath, "Wait for me, George, I'm coming." Tiger pushed her hard, not out of cruelty, but purpose. He knew her story, and he understood why quitting was not an option. Meanwhile, far away in another city, George was living carelessly, drinking, partying, and spending money as if nothing could ever touch him. He had no idea. Something was coming, and this time Stella was ready. Stella continued to build herself day after day. She worked hard in the office, in training, in silence. She pushed through pain, never minding how tough it became. 2 years passed. By then, Stella was ready, strong in body, steady in mind, clear in purpose. One early morning, she packed a small bag. She sat with Abraham and her twin, holding them close for a long time. She had already arranged help, provided everything they would need, and made sure they would lack nothing in her absence. "This won't take long," she told Abraham quietly. He looked at her face and understood. This journey was one she had to take alone. Stella applied for leave from work. Then she left. She didn't dress rich. She didn't dress powerful. She dressed like the weak woman George remembered. Simple clothes, tired eyes, nothing that would raise suspicion. The same woman he once believed he had broken. And as Stella headed toward George, she knew one thing. This time she was not running. When Stella reached the house, it was quiet, too quiet. George was not at home. She sat outside and waited. Time passed slowly. The sun went down and night settled in. By the time George finally returned, it was already late. The gate creaked as he stepped inside. Then he saw her. "Stella," George burst into laughter. "I thought you ran away," he mocked. "I told you would return, foolish woman. I told you no man would look at you because you are useless." Stella stared at him calmly. "Open your door," she said quietly. "Let me go inside." George froze for a moment, surprised by her tone. "How dare you talk when I'm talking?" he shouted. He raised his hand to slap her, but this time, Stella caught his hand in midair. She didn't shout. She didn't insult him. She simply twisted his wrist slightly, took the key from his hand, and opened the door. George stood there, stunned, his mouth wide open, watching her walk into the house like she owned it. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "Stella," he said coldly, "you dared to hold my hand. You are finished." He stepped inside after her and slammed the door shut. Stella walked inside and sat on a chair. She crossed her legs calmly and looked around the room. The same room that once held her fear. George followed her in, his face burning with anger. "How dare you?" he shouted. He turned suddenly and rushed toward the inner room, reaching for something to use on her, but he didn't know. Stella returned fully prepared. George came back, holding the same belt he used to flog her back then. The sight of it made Stella's anger rise sharply. As George moved closer, she stood up immediately. She knew it was time for war. He raised the belt to strike her just like before, but this time, Stella grabbed the belt midair and pushed him hard. George crashed to the floor. Before he could react, Stella rushed to the door and locked it on the floor. George was confused. He didn't understand what was happening, but he could feel her strength. Stella returned with a chair, lifted him up with effort, placed him on it, and tied him tightly with a rope she had brought. That was when George knew. He was weak. Stella sat down in front of him and spoke calmly. "You know, in the few years I was away, I thought you might have changed," she said. "I told myself I would forgive you if you had truly changed." She leaned closer. "But you didn't. You still wanted to hit me. You didn't even ask about your children." Her voice hardened. "George, you are heartless and people like you deserve no mercy." Then she flogged him, the same way he had flogged her. George screamed, he begged, he cried, but Stella didn't listen. Slowly, she stopped. She untied him, but it was not over. "From today," Stella said coldly, "you will not leave this house. The same way I served you, you will now serve me." She locked every door. George cleaned the house every day. He washed plates. He cooked, he washed her clothes. He served her obediently. There was no escape. As he worked like a servant, tears rolled down his face. Now he understood how it felt. 2 weeks later, Stella sat on the cushion like a boss, crossed her legs calmly and arranged the papers with quiet precision. She looked at George and said, "I'm ready to divorce you." George was happy. He thought he was finally going to be free, but he had no idea what was about to happen. After filing the papers, Stella returned home to her children. She slept peacefully, waiting for the judgment date, but the court summoned them earlier than expected. That morning, Stella walked into the courtroom with calm confidence. When George arrived and saw her, he froze. This was not the broken woman he remembered. Stella looked stunning, elegant, composed, and powerful. Her simple outfit spoke wealth without shouting. Her face calm, her aura untouchable. George swallowed hard. When did she become this woman? The room was silent. Every second felt heavy as they waited for the final judgment. Then the judge spoke, and in that moment George's world collapsed. Almost all of George's properties were awarded to Stella and her children, including his mansion. George was left with only a few personal belongings. He sat there, his hands on his head, wishing it was all a dream. But it was too late. Stella knew there were still people who saw them as a perfect couple, people who admired them, not knowing the truth. She needed to clear the air. So she invited everyone, friends, family, neighbors, and those who had always praised George. Stella told her story. She spoke about the abuse, the beatings, the fear, the pain she lived with in silence. The room fell quiet. People were shocked, disappointed, angry. They realized George had lied to them all along. From that day, no one trusted him again. No one stood by him. No one came near him. Stella returned to her new family. The moment her twins saw her, they ran into her arms and hugged her tightly. Abraham also embraced her warmly. For the first time in years, Stella was truly happy. She could finally sleep peacefully. No fear, no pain, no trauma holding her down. Say no to domestic violence. Say no to bullying. Sometimes victims remain trapped in pain for years. They cannot forgive or forget easily, and they go through so much just to find justice. Dear viewers, did Stella do the right thing? If yes, tell us yes. If no, tell us what you think she could have done differently.
Dear viewers, please subscribe for more interesting stories like mine. Hit the like button, share, and hit the bell to get notifications anytime we post. Catch you in our next story. Bye!